my 5 top tips would be, first and foremost, keep the children out of it. Your children don't need to be embroiled in the centre of the acrimony, or just the decision that you've made, in a sense, to separate. They need to know 2 things: that it's not their fault, and that you both love them very, very much, and that all of this will be sorted out. They don't need the minutiae of what's going on between you. My second top tip is they will have questions, and that's totally understandable, and the best way to deal with that is to manage that in a way that's appropriate for their age, for their understanding, and to have a unified front. You might not be getting on very well with your spouse at the moment. It might be an extremely strained time, but if at all possible, try and have a unified approach with the information that you're giving them, so that they're getting it neutrally from both of their parents, and it's not the perception of one against the other, or any blame being aside. In terms of child arrangements, again, this isn't always easy in the context of separating, but if you are able to have a discussion in some forum, whether that's in mediation, via your solicitors, to try and reach an agreement in relation to the child arrangements, that is the best way for them. If their mum and dad have decided how best the care arrangement should work for them, the children will roll with it. But if there's conflict, they'll feel the conflict, and that's going to have an impact on the arrangements working, even in the short term, whilst the longer term plan is worked out. The other thing I think to think about generally is that there is going to be a change of arrangements, and that's something to perhaps have in mind as early as possible, and not discuss it with the children. Things like the long-term living arrangements, where they're going to go to school, because there might be a need for them to change schools or change the areas where they live, which will mean perhaps moving away from friends. And that's something that they don't need to know about initially. That's something that, once the plan is in place, it could be talked about in a way that will help them understand, rather than sort of peripherally hearing, oh, there might be a change of school, oh, we might have to move location. That's going to worry them, and what you want to do is try not to worry them as much as you can whilst you're working out the details. And finally, communication is key. However difficult things are, and whatever medium you need to use in order to communicate, there does need to be a line of communication between you. You are parenting these children, sometimes from a very young age, if you're separating when they're very young, for a long time, and there needs to be a way that you can manage that, and that can be over a number of different mediums. Once the process of making the arrangements has finished, it can be using apps such as My Family Wizard, it can be using a designated email address, it could be having a conversation on the telephone every now and again. But communication is really important moving forward, to make sure that the children know that you are, so far as you can, do working together for their benefits. They would be my 5 sort of top tips in terms of managing that process for them in the best way possible.